That'll move us on to Q&A. These questions come from Instagram, YouTube, the forums of OrlandoDrummer.com, or you can send any of your questions straight to me at chris@OrlandoDrummer.com.
Yeah.
And our first question is from Gav Little.
Okay.
He asks, how do you stop freezing up when playing and removing the aid of always counting while playing?
Sure. So, two questions. Counting and playing is sort of its own monster, that's for sure. We'll leave that one for later. Stopping freezing up while playing. So, one of those things is like it's an unfortunate part of the answer, and it's just exposure. You just got to do it a lot. If you're in your first 10 or 20 live performances or shows, dude, you're going to be nervous. You're a human being. That's part of the deal. It just happens. And one thing you can do to set yourself up for success in some of those earlier performances, if you're feeling kind of locked up and just having those nerves sort of control your playing a little more than you'd like, one thing you can do is just be over-prepared. It's the best thing you can do to make sure that feeling kind of stays subdued a little bit, is prepare to the point where you can do this in your sleep. Because if you can do it in your sleep, then maybe you could do it while you're nervous and it'll still turn out okay. So that's going to be really helpful, man. Just over-prepare for whatever it is that you have coming up. Another thing I would recommend doing, and this takes a long time to learn, I still struggle with this sometimes, but never play at the very top end of your skill set. If you're performing live, try to back everything down from like its highest level of difficulty. If you've got a fill, let's say you have 5 fills that you could play in one section of a song. And one of them is the one you really want to play. It's the sick fill. It's the fastest one, and it's got the weird dynamic, and it's got the sweep and the crossover in it. But if you're only landing that 4 out of 5 times, dude, that 5th time when you're not landing it, it's going to happen in the show. That's exactly when that's going to happen. So what you want to do is go through some other fills. This is just a weird example, but like go through some other fills and find one that you can nail 100 times out of 100. That's the one that should go in that spot. So don't select things that are needlessly difficult in a live scenario. Back that skill level down. The audience doesn't know anyway. They don't care. So just pick something more musical, a little bit more tasteful, and don't always push the boundaries of your current skill sets in a live setting. It's not what live playing is for. And then when it comes to counting while playing, this is one of those things that actually goes away with time. The longer that you count as you're playing drums, the less you end up having to do it. And a really more clear-cut example of this would be like with the metronome. Like, you always need to practice with the metronome. It's an important thing to make sure that you keep within your practice regimen. But there's definitely a point where it doesn't feel like you're playing with a metronome even when you are. It sort of disappears into the background, and it's just not a thing that you have to put any mental energy on. You're just able to follow it effortlessly. And a good example of this would be like when you're playing in 7/8 time. Everybody has to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You will do that for a year until all of a sudden that becomes subconscious. It's not that you're not counting, but it's that you don't have to dedicate very much of your mental bandwidth to counting. It just sort of happens. And if you ever had to count, well, you could. You still know where you are, but think about the easiest thing that you can play, like a basic rock beat. When you first learned that, you had to go 1 and 2 and 3, right? You had to count to 1, 2, 3, 4, and you do that until you don't. And if I ever stopped you while you were playing and said, hey, do you know where you are? Well, if it's in 4/4, you might say, yeah, I do, of course. I just hit the 4 on the backbeat of the snare. You weren't thinking about it, but you still had that map happening in your head. And so this can happen with any time signature, but it is directly related to how much time you've spent in that time signature. So if you're in year 1 of studying a new time signature, like 7/8, for example, it's okay to keep counting. You're going to have to do that for a little while, and I don't think you have to put much effort on ever not counting. I think it's just going to go away on its own. But you got to spend the time. It's just sort of the name of the game. So hope that helps, man. Great questions.
to remove the aid of always counting while playing, too, just look at your bass player and see where they're at.
Yeah.
Look at any other musician in your band, and somebody has to know.
Somebody, hopefully.
It's not always the drummer, but it should be the drummer.
It should be you. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You should be the reference point there. If you're not, maybe you got a good bass player who can count with you. Thank you for watching this clip from the Orlando Drummer Podcast. If you're at all looking to improve yourself as a drummer in the online realm, which you are because you clicked this video, head down to the link in the description and start a free 7-day trial to OrlandoDrummer.com. You can also download our iOS and Android apps and explore it that way. I've got 160 hours of content waiting for you there, and I would love to have you on board. Again, free trial in the description. I'll see you guys there.